Good morning. Blessings and welcome, everyone. It is such a great honor to be with you here this morning, now and always. I'm so very grateful. Thank you so much. And I do want to make sure that you can hear me. I have the swamp cooler on, and it's kind of rambunctiously loud here in the background. So please do let me know if you do have any problems hearing me, and I will speak up that little bit more. I did want to begin this morning with just a little meditation. I just woke up. Not really. The cat woke me up before 6 a.m. And I don't like getting up before 6 a.m. if I don't have to. And then I went back to sleep. And anyway, I would be so grateful if you would join me for just a moment to close our eyes and take a deep breath in and out. We'll gather our collective consciousness, this divine group that is guided to be here this morning. We gather light unto us, our angels, our guides, all those light beings who love us. We welcome you, our angels, and we thank you for being present with us this morning. I pray and I affirm that the most high light-filled messages that are designed to channel through this show, this body, this vehicle this morning, truly align you and serve you and all that are guided back home to yourself, back home to the truth of you, where you are one, where you are whole, where you are aligned with the truth of your heart, and so it is. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, and thank you all of the new subscribers. I'm so very grateful for everyone who's joining this YouTube channel. It means so very much to me, and this is truly a place where I get to practice teaching what I preach. So thank you for being an audience and for being a witness to all of that. This morning, our topic is quantum timelines. And it's so very, very interesting to me. You know, do you ever feel that you have slipped out of one dimension and that you are now existing in a different dimension, or that somehow things have changed? Just recently, I had a couple of very interesting situations happen. I have a deck called the Mayan Oracle that I love to use personally, and I think earlier in the year I did 1 or 2 tarot readings where I incorporated a few of those cards. And anyway, so I had pulled a card by the bedside, read the little book on the information, and I had the stack of cards with that one card that I pulled facing up by the bedside. And it was interesting because I read the definition and the meaning about what the card was. And interestingly, it had a lot to do with what this week's tarot is all about sexual energy, learning how to harness that and really bridge it into the higher levels of creation of self. And I will come back and put a link over here for that tarot reading. It's pretty juicy, pretty spicy, to say the least. But with that, I remember reading it and feeling like, okay, this resonates, yet it wasn't like a bang on. You know, when you pull a card, perhaps, and you're like, okay, I get it, yet it didn't hit the 100% mark. It was maybe like a 75 or 80. I go to sleep. I wake up. The next morning, I turn over, and by the bedside, that card that was on top that I had pulled the day before was no longer sitting face up on top. Instead, what was on top was a whole different card. And I was like, excuse me, say what? But I took it as a message that it was important to read this card. So I got the little book and I read it and I was like, here's the 100%. This is fully on. This is fully on. I could feel my DNA and every cell in my body activating and resonating with it. And then out of curiosity, I picked up that deck and I turned it over. And don't you know, the card that I had pulled the day before, the original card that I felt was only 75%, was on the bottom, face up. So when I flipped the deck over, it was sitting there, yet that new card was on top. Twilight Zone, quantum timeline, parallel reality. You tell me if anything like that has ever happened to you. On another level, as some of you know, I was away about a week or so ago. And I remember before I went away, I have a cross, a wooden cross on the wall that a dear friend of mine made for me. And I remember before I left to go away, I noticed that the cross was sitting askew on the wall. And there's no reason why it would have been different. You know, it's like when there's a painting on the wall and then all of a sudden it's crooked. But I remember looking at it and going, oh, well, that's interesting. I left for my trip. I came back. It was still sitting askew. And then it was interesting because it was, you know what? Oh, my goodness. In fact, now that I'm thinking back to it, it was the same day, which was only, I think, just yesterday, that new card was sitting on top. I remember coming out into the living room space, looking up at the cross, and the cross was no longer askew. It was back to center. So has this ever happened to you? Have you ever, sort of blipped in and blipped out of different veils of reality where things are the same, but they are not the same as they were before? And that's the basis of what we're going to be talking about today. I really feel in so many ways that life is like an adventure book. And if you know my book, The Reiki Apprentice, for so long, I really want to, and maybe someday in the future, make that book into an adventure book. If you don't know what an adventure book is, I remember in school, they used to have these books. Katie and Johnny go on an adventure, right? Into this island of the lost skulls or something, say. And you read the chapter, and at the end of the chapter, Katie and Johnny either take the path to the left, they go into the cave, or they take the path to the right. And you choose which you're going to go with Katie and Johnny, and depending on that choice, you turn to a different page, which leads to a different route through the book and to taking you, the reader, onto a different adventure. And I've always wanted to do that with my Reiki Apprentice book, that if you just wanted to read about the Reiki, it would be, follow this track. If you just want to read about the personal, drama and trauma of the healing path, you read this part of the book. If you just want to read the metaphysical energy tools as channeled by my teacher back then, you would just read that part of the book. In getting to the point, life is like an adventure book. I remember seeing once this little comic, and it had a stick figure. And the stick figure was a woman, and there was another stick figure that was a man, and the man had proposed to the woman, proposed for marriage to the woman. And it showed all these possibilities. If she says yes, this is what the possible, realities could be. If she said no, this is what the possible realities could be. If she said maybe, this is what the possible realities could be. If she said, let me think about it, or whatever it was, is that we're constantly met with making choices in our life on behalf of ourselves. And each of those choices lead us down a different yellow brick road of experience. So whether it is about love or sex, when you say yes, when you say no, the choices that you make in any given moment are either going to guide you along one trajectory or the other. When it comes to your job or potential career or job opportunities, the choices you make, whether you say yes to that job or no to that job, are going to take you down a certain pathway. Whether it is a move or where you decide to live as your home, the country, right, the desert, the ocean, wherever it is, each place that we find ourselves, and each choice that we make within it are going to allow a different set of opportunities. You go to the doctor, say you have an ailment, you go to the doctor, you go to one doctor and they give you a death sentence, you go to another doctor and they give you all sorts of information that allow you to explore a different healing path. It's like there's just all these alternate realities that are constantly at our fingertips, constantly bestowing themselves unto us, and we get to make the choice. Each choice creates a new choice or a new set of choices. And what we're learning to do as we learn to bridge heaven on earth through us and connect with that 4D consciousness, which is living from a space of the heart, living in a space where we stop creating perpetuating situations that allow us to keep learning the same lessons over again. As we learn those lessons and refine our graces and learn how to make choices that are deeply rooted in the truth of us and the truth of our heart, we no longer have to go and do those lessons over again. And then we are suddenly finding ourselves in a free zone, in a zone where all good comes to us, where life, love, money, blessings, opportunities just come with ease because we are radiating as that true center of self. Now, making choices in honor of our intuition and heart is a very interesting thing. And you know what? I meant to look it up. If one of you could look it up. I mean, we could do it right now. But I wanted, so I have this whiteboard behind me and I want to use it. Oh, you know what? Oh, wait, here, hold on. Let me get a little tissue in case I need to rub something out. So I love this idea of, and I want to make sure you can see. Is that big enough? In, to, it, shun. Okay, so if we think about this word, intuition, in, to, I, right? Into I. When you use your intuition, you are going into the I that is you, that is the true you. Now, I wanted to look up the word ion, and because I didn't get all my sleep, I didn't have time this morning to do it. If anyone knows what the word ion means, I have a feeling it has to do with the, atomic structures, the molecular structures of this universe and whatnot. It feels very scientific, but intuition, the point here is that your intuition is not bound by time and space. Time and space being the governing modalities of thought and of word that align us in a certain continuum here in the 3D, here in the world zone, right, of how we interact with all people, places, and things here with us. Intuition, your into I shun, your intuition is always going to bring you into the now moment where your full power and authority is, where your full presence is, where the truth of you is, into the heart of you. So it is not bound by time and space. It is when we use the thinking mind, right, to figure things out. And the thinking mind is great, critical thinking, all this stuff, very, very important. Yet the root of our divine soul compass is always grounded. It's always there in your intuition. Your intuition will never, ever let you down. I think Will, thank you, Will. I think he might have just looked it up. Let's see. An ion is an atom or molecule that has a non-zero electrical charge. Its total number of electrons is not equal to its total number of photons. Anion, union, or an ion can be either positive or negative, but I think he's still typing. Thank you so much for that, Will. So it is a continuum, right, of the way that we are molecularly, atomically structured, negative but neutral. So an ion can be either positive or negative, but neutral. Everybody's got an agenda, LOL. Okay, so we're going to put that together as we go along. All in all, the point here is that when you activate from the heart space, when you use your intuition, your intuition, you are allowing yourself to collapse timelines and realities that are not in resonance with the true you. And again, making choices from that true you, from your intuition, from that heart space, is going to lead you on a path of joy, of sovereignty, of grace, and of blessings. So we're going to erase this. We're going to use the board here a little bit today, and I'm very excited. And I tried doing this last night all around the house to try to find the perfect place of where to hang this board and where to be, and this is where it wanted to be. So here we are. So we go into this realm of the holographic universe. And, you know, there's this notion that, oh wait, Will is writing more. Pardon me. Let me just have a look here. But not neutral. Oh, okay. An ion can be either positive or negative, but not neutral. Ah, thank you. Thank you, Will. So that's interesting. That is very interesting. So, oh, here I am pointing to it, and it's gone. It's gone. So what we do when we use the intuition is we bring ourselves into the neutral place. So isn't that interesting? We almost delete from that ionosphere and bring ourselves into the nowosphere. Thank you so much for looking that up, Will. I'm really so grateful. So getting into this holographic universe idea, as we're thinking about quantum timelines and parallel realities as such, it is said that the whole universe is a hologram, that everything contains everything else, right? And we think about it. It takes one cell of your body to create a body. All of the wisdom within one cell contains all of the wisdom that is required to create a whole nother you, a whole other being, right? It contains all the DNA, everything required. It is said that if we take a picture, a snapshot of our reality, what it seems now, and we cut it into fours, and we take one of that fourth of that picture, that we can actually create from that one picture, or that it contains everything that was in that one picture as a whole, even though it might seem that it only has a quarter of that part of the whole. Everything is contained within everything else. When we think about quantum realities, we think about that adventure book of life. We think about all of the ways that we can make choices and how all of those choices contain a new set of choices, a new set of adventures for us to go through and live out. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because this quantum timeline thing, and like this thing with those tarot cards and with that cross on the wall and waking up one day and things are different, and have I flipped into a different timeline, into a quantum timeline? We're going to talk about a little bit about the Mandela effect. Now, this is something that is fully blowing my mind. I think I'd heard about it, but I never gave any time and attention to it until just a few nights. And now I'm just eating up as much information as I can. And I have not developed a full awareness, like a full grounding of it for myself. I'm still like getting my synapses clicked into what it all means, but it has inspired me enough. It has clicked enough for me to talk about it just a little bit today. And this is where our memories shift. And I actually I recorded this, and this is what I was going to play for you in the park the other day. I'm going to hold it up to the microphone of the computer, and I pray you can hear it. I'm going to turn it up all the way. This person describes the Mandela effect perfectly. So what is the Mandela effect? Well, it is a theory of parallel universes based in the idea that large groups of people have been found to have similar alternative memories about past events. Advocates of the theory claim that these collective experiences to be true, the fabric of reality must have been shifted at some point in the past, and therefore, not only do parallel inhabitable universes exist, but that we are constantly switching between them. Okay, we are constantly switching between parallel universes. One moment you like someone, the next, at one moment you like someone and the whole world is like fantastic, or you fall in love with someone and it's like love, right? And everything, all the woes of the world disappear and you're living in this alternate universe where all is well and all of creation and you're filled with this certain zhuzh. You fall out of love, you have a fight, you're hurt, and all of a sudden it's a very different world. Parallel realities, right? There's a version of you in that adventure story of life that is, flying on the wings of love. And next thing, there's a version of you that's just crushed and your heart is broken in a million pieces on the floor. Right? That's just an example. But it's so interesting to me because the more that I have been researching this Mandela effect, the more I'm putting together these things in my mind where I'm on Instagram and I follow a massive array, a great spectrum of different people with different kinds of ideas. And it is very interesting because there's these very interesting posts. And now I am what's the word? Hypothetically, or I am, to the best of my memory, recalling these numbers. So please, I'm not quoting from an absolute perfect memory. But as I recall, what I'm seeing is that there are some people that are beginning to remember, and I put this in a bubble of love and light. I'm not intending to stir or to push any buttons. This is just an interesting story that seems to be happening in my reality, is that I'm noticing that some people, this Auschwitz grid is back up, right, from World War II. Some people have the memory that 12,000 people died in the concentration camps, and other people have a memory of more like 200,000 people dying in these concentration camps. And it's so interesting to see these conversations in the comments on some of these posts. What is right and what is wrong? As we collectively hold beliefs, one can believe in something. One set of people can believe that there was a certain amount of people that died there, and another amount of people can believe that a different number of people had died in Auschwitz. Yet, at the same time, we are all able to still reside, whether you agree or you don't, we are all able to still reside in this plane of 3D. Yet at the same time, due to the holographic nature of this universe, we are then living in a trajectory of a different timeline where the reality is different for each of us, right? As it serves the memory, as the memory of things reside. So this Mandela effect was noted by a woman who had realized that she thought that Nelson Mandela had died while he was in prison. She actually had memories in her mind of it being all over the news, of people marching, of people crying, and of all these people giving their speeches and their talks about what a good person he was and how much he changed the world and all this sort of stuff. Come to find out, though, she goes on the computer and she realizes that he died in 2013 after he was released from prison, years after she thought that he had actually died. And that there was this huge consensus of people that also, she realized, believed or thought that he had died while he was in prison. And equally, an amount of people that thought that he died afterwards. So we can all think in different ways. We can all have different timelines, different senses of reality. Yet, we are somehow able to meet and converge here. And ultimately, what we're doing, what we're going to get to as we get to it today, is we're going to talk about an energy tool called point in creation, whereby we learn how to collapse timelines, these quantum timelines that we may be living in, so that we can come into the fullness of our truth in the here, in the now, in our full power and authority. So equally, one person can believe in God and another person can be an atheist, but still we are here. It doesn't matter if that person that believes in God and that prays to God receives what they need to get from that. That is one quantum timeline. Another person who does not believe in God, that serves them. They're happy going along their merry way in life. No problem there. That's their timeline. There are all these infinite potential possibilities for us to choose and unchoose. And each of them contains a different storyline, a different invitation for us to explore life and reality as we think we know it. We are switching into parallel realities. And ultimately, I want to talk about the Mandela effect, which, believe me, I'm still soaking in. And one of these days, I would love to do like a video just on that, but I'm still soaking it in. If you have good links or you know of more information, throw them in the comment box. I would love to check it out. But I'm thinking the reason especially why it clicked with me is I'm thinking about the Mandela effect with healing. Because we may know from our own experience that in life you may live a certain trajectory, a certain quantum, a certain timeline due to past experiences, right? Think about your healing, right? With your family, in your body, in your life in general, and how there was one version of you that existed on a certain timeline for a certain period of time. And as you healed those issues, those pains, those traumas and whatnot, you begin to live in a different timeline where those things of the past no longer affect you in the same way. The songs that you hear on the radio that might have had a lot of charge about your ex, right? Or about something that happened to you when you were young. As you heal those issues from the past, you no longer have those knee-jerk reactions or those tearful or those, those things that bring you all the way back into those memories. And so you're hurt again, or it brings up all those issues. We might think about smells, right? I remember there was a certain smell as I was younger, and it was of a moose. When I was younger, I had a mohawk, I had blue hair, purple hair, red hair. I used to wear my hair, just my grandma makes fun. She sometimes brings up the story because I used to, before I dyed my hair, I had bleach blonde hair. And at school, in junior high, they used to call me Tuesday, obviously, that's my name, but also the sun, because I used to wear this skull band, right, around my hair at the front, and I would stand up against the bathroom door. I would tease my hair out into this big flat sun. God, I know there's a picture somewhere. I'll have to show you at some point. But I used to stand up against the door frame, Aquanet, spray my hair so it was this flat crown of sorts of sun. And why am I telling you this? Oh, because there was this mousse that I used to wear, a hair mousse, along with the Aquanet hairspray. And it had this really specific smell. And I remember over time, and it would always take me back to that time in my life. Oh, and the reason why grandma used to, she brings it up from time to time, is there was a point where I would do the sun and I would put little plastic spiders in it. Because that's how I used to roll. Okay, I was 13 years old, 14 years old. Anyway, that smell had all of these memories attached to it. And I remember I'd stopped using it, and I lived in Ireland and I moved around. But once in a blue moon, that smell would come and I would soak it in, and it would just bring up all of these memories. And they were good memories. They were like these youthful memories. And I would just sit with them, and it would just be really juicy and beautiful. But equally so, if that smell was related to something that did not bring me joy, that wasn't filling me with a delightful memory, when I smelled that smell, I might go back into that reality, that timeline of all of those things and all of those reasons why I need to get that smell out of my memory, of why there's a charge there. We think about it with places. There's places we might visit, and it holds that memory for us. It holds that charge. Faces, certain people do that to us too. But as we forgive, as we truly forgive, and we forget, the memory that's attached to the past, to those people, places, things, begins to dissolve. Our connection, my energy threads, my grids that had once connected me to that quantum timeline of that certain reality begins to dissolve and dissipate and disappear to the degree that it serves my highest good, the highest good of all, that when I smell that smell, see that face, hear that song on the radio, I no longer have those charges. I no longer have all of those memories attached to it. Now, I am a believer, a knower in the practice of forgiving. Absolutely. Forgiveness is one of the meta healers, heart space healing, powerful tools that we have on this planet. As it's all heart, it brings us back into collapsing timelines of the past so that not only we can be present in the moment, but that we invite and allow those attached to those memories to be free and sovereign to the degree that we can let go of them as well. Forgiving and forgetting, really erasing and releasing the memory. And remembering that memories and certain timelines that we associate ourselves with are either going to bind us or they are going to liberate us. Binding us meaning keeping us held in those blueprints of self that do not really serve who we seek to be now, where we seek to move into our future from this present space and time, right? Or those timelines can liberate us where there is no static, where there is no fractalized memory of pain, of trauma, of grief, of holding things against another, right? Grudges, resentments, all that stuff. When we release that, we are free. When we don't release it, we are bound. Okay, I want to just check the comments, and thank you everyone so much for plugging in here. I'm so very grateful for it. Blessings. Yes. So if you're here and you want to say a little hello in the comment box, I am so grateful. And it lets the community know that you are here too. And I am just going to have a look. Carol Burnett. Yes. Thank you. And that thought had come up to me. So Will had written in the comments, Carol Burnett. So equally, talking about that Mandela effect, I remember hanging out with you, Will, several months ago. And for some reason, Carol Burnett came up, right? She was a comedian back when I was a kid. She's a great comedian of our day. And I remember we were having this conversation with another person. I said, yeah, wow, I heard that she died. And I literally have this memory of like seeing it. I don't watch the news here at home, but when I'm at grandma's house, grandma has the news on. And I have this memory, this very distinct memory, 3D memory of seeing on the news or some, show that's supposed to have like the facts that she had in fact died. So I'm hanging out with Will and this other person, and I'm saying, yeah, isn't it a trip that she's dead now? And Will was like, no, she's not. Da, 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 da. Googled it, still alive, still alive. And it was like, whoa. So there's that Mandela effect where we can have these different realities operating at the same time. Now, I don't know what it means to me that I had perceived or had this experience that Carol Burnett had died. I don't know what it means to Will that she's still alive, right? Yet the point is that all of these quantum realities, these quantum timelines exist, and it's up to us to decide what we are going to choose at any given time so that we can serve ourselves in living our most true, authentic life. So as we heal, I wrote this down, I'm going to read it. As we heal, we access the mystic within. We learn how to turn lead into gold. The lead being the dross, the pain, the heaviness of our past that keeps us bound to that past. And this is the kind of gold that you take with you beyond the 3D. Yes, that you hold in the 3D, but that you take with you beyond the 3D. This is the gold of the heart space, the gold of the nectar that resides within you. And as you heal those dramas and traumas of the past, you allow space for more of that truth that is you, the truth of you, that is that golden, sweet, love-filled nectar to reside. And when more space is made for that golden, sweet nectar of love to reside within you, you naturally, by default, by the law of vibration, attract more of that to you. Now, this is the kind of gold you take with you when you die, right? So the alchemist is known for turning lead into gold, right? The philosopher's stone. And that's a very 3D way of looking at it. The mystical alchemists know that it's much more heartfelt. It's much more heart aligned than that. This idea of turning lead into gold, it truly is enlightenment. It is embodied realization, embodied enlightenment of your oneness with all of creation. And that is what we take with us when we die. If you are an alchemist and you create tons of gold, right, you can put it in your coffin, you can bury it, you can burn it with you, or whatever it is when you go. Yet there's a sense that that belongs in the 3D domain. That is of this world. And that is not necessarily what we will be taking with us. But what we do take with us is the nectar and the gold that we create within us from transmuting those lower, denser energies into their higher frequencies. So when we die, I believe we take that gold, that nectar with us. When we time travel, okay? So when you time travel, meaning when you daydream, when you allow yourself to move into a quantum timeline, when you know you're a physical body here, but you allow yourself to explore, maybe it's in a meditation, it's a visualization, you allow yourself to explore, what happens is as you gather more of that gold within, you take it with you. When you journey in ceremony, whether it's ayahuasca, whether it is with mushrooms, right? Or in your dream time, you take it with you. Whether you have the physical paralysis, which is also in my book, The Reiki Apprentice. I've had so many, numerous accounts of that aren't even in the book. It is a thread in the book. Yet what I had known, what I had experienced, and you know it in, I think it's the chapter on the tar body, the actual tar body itself, is I would go into these altered states of consciousness where I would hear this sound, this big hum and this big buzz, and this vibration would take over my whole body. And I would become paralyzed. I couldn't move. I could blink my eyes. I couldn't open my mouth. I couldn't make a sound. I couldn't move a muscle. I would be locked into whatever position I was from a sleeping place. And I would get there. Often the way it would happen for me is I would be just about to fall asleep. And in this metaphor, we think about being awake, white, being asleep, black. And that space in between being the gray. And it would often come just as I was letting myself go to sleep, where I knew I was still in a body, in a 3D dimension, yet I was just going off to sleep. And before I got into the black of deep, really deep sleep, there's that space of the gray. And that's when the hums would come and it would start to lock in. And like a Houdini jacket, it would just paralyze me. And from that, I had different experiences with visitors and different extra dimensional beings and whatnot. Yet, as I learned over my life how to heal my life and garner my power, garner love, hold space for love, which I did with learning how to use Reiki to heal my life, practicing an infinite, affirmations and prayers and chants and just all the things that we are perhaps guided to do on this spiritual path, and learning metaphysical energy tools, of course. What I found is as I dropped into this gray zone, is I found not necessarily my ability to overcome this physical paralysis, but the mental paralysis of fear that would be with me as I went into those spaces in, you can call it dream time, if you will, in that gray paralysis field, is that my mental continuum was that much stronger because I was taking the gold that I had harvested as that mystical alchemist that we all are when we practice healing our lives. I had taken that gold, it just was with me anyway, as a byproduct, into those spaces of multidimensional, interdimensional relating with other beings or other situations. And there's a chapter in the book, The Tar Body, where I face my tar body down. And I had to use every strength and power and everything that I could in the mind, in my mind, because I couldn't speak and I couldn't move my body, but I had to do battle with this shadow, my own shadow, right, in this gray field. But I used that continuum that I had gathered in my heart through my mind, and I was able to collapse that. And I've never had that experience in that same way since. So that's, I just want to point that out, that we take that with us. All that you gather, no matter where you go in this 3D or multi-dimensionally, through all of the quantum realities and timelines you travel, you take that gold with you. The more fear you have, the more pain that is not healed, the more we have not looked at and healed our shadow, well, that comes with us. And then when we get locked in these weird dreams or in these situations, whether it's 3D and we have an altercation, an odd situation, we are either going to be coming at that situation from that limited space of fear that keeps us bound, right, to fear, to responding, to reacting from a place of lack, or we react and we respond from a place of love, which is the truth as far as I'm concerned, which places us in our full power and authority, right? And gives us wings to experience sovereignty no matter what dimension we find ourselves in. Now, we are going to talk about point in creation. Okay, let me see. I'm just reading my notes. So point in creation is a magnificent energy tool that I want to talk about. But I think first we're going to do a little more drawing on the board. And I want to make sure that you can see. So we talk a lot about the grid. The grid stands for generated rhythms of interconnected dimensional systems. And I got that from my time floating in isolation flotation tanks. I remember I was and still am, although I was more unhealthily obsessed with this whole grid notion back in the day. And now I have a more detached relationship with it. But I remember going into those float tanks, and every time I went into the tank, it was all about the grid. And I'd go in and I'd say, for the highest good, show me more about this grid. Whatever I'm ready to receive, show me. And I remember going in one night and saying, like, what does grid even stand for? And my guides, the higher wisdom, whatever it is, told me generated rhythms of interconnected dimensional systems. Every thought that you have, that I have, every feeling, every emotion, every word that we speak is an energy, creates an energy thread that moves out from our physical, our 3D being, through all dimensions, time, and space, and link us to quantum timelines, whether they be associated with the past, the future, or the now moment. So, as such, we generate from our thoughts, feelings, emotions, words, actions. We generate these rhythms, these excitements in our atomic structures, right, that are either positive or negative, as we think about it in this 3D, right, that are either going to be of love, of light, or of fear, of hate, of pain. Interconnected because all of our thoughts are interconnected through the collective consciousness. All thoughts we share. Now, depending though on what thought we decide to give our time and attention and our pay attentioning awareness to, is what is going to perpetuate, is what is going to be given fuel to then be bridged down into this reality of the 3D for us to experience. So, generated rhythms of interconnected, my thought, as I send out a thought of hate, a thought of pain, what happens is that through this collective consciousness, through this grid network of all minds being joined, vibrationally, I connect with other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions related to hate, related to pain. And so as I connect with that thought, with that feeling vibration with my thread extending out and connecting with another person's thread and everyone else's threads of pain, of hate, through all time and space, through all dimensions, which we're going to break down here in a second, I, in fact, plug into that. And when I plug into that through my thought, action, words, and deeds, I'm saying, yes, more please. And so in effect, I get piped into me from plugging into that grid through my actions, thoughts, words, and deeds. I say yes to plugging into having more of that in my reality. And it creates a concrete structure in my reality through which, yes, that will confirm what I believe, what I think, what I say is true. Okay? I hope and I pray that you understand what I'm saying here. And it's a vital component to this point of creation. So we're going to just draw, and I'm going to see if I can draw this big here. Okay. So here's a person. Can you see? I hope you can see. Here's imagine this up here is the collective consciousness, this grid network. Here is me, okay? Now, it is said that we think a minimum of 70,000 thoughts a day. I actually feel that it could be more and it can be less, right? Depending on how your mind is, right? Some of us have a very active mind field and there's just thoughts, thoughts, thoughts. And some of us, there's more space between the thoughts. Neither is right or wrong. It just is, right? But imagine, here you are, here I am. Every thought I have is connecting me to the grid. It's connecting me, one of my grid threads, up and into the collective grid. And my grid thread is connecting to all of everyone else's grid threads that vibrate frequentially. Yes, that is a new word. We are coining it. Frequentially with all of those other energies that resonate as the truth. Like attracts like, okay? Now, every thought I have is connecting me. Every feeling I have, every action I have is connecting me to that greater strata. And the more that I think certain thoughts, the more powerful those grid threads that go from me and extend out to greater consciousness will be. And the more powerful I'm going to receive down from this network of interconnected dimensional systems, that information that is there. Okay, interconnected, why? Again, because all minds are one. All minds are joined through this collective consciousness, and all minds are joined through love. Okay, here, what I teach, what I believe, what I share is that love is, it's like the plank position, right? And I am not a scientist, but believe me, I dig this stuff and I feel there's these correlations between this metaphysical realm and these teachings with science, right? But there's this middle ground in between. And I feel that we can bridge the gap through these teachings and understandings of metaphysics. And we learn how to use the invisible realm in our world so that we can enjoy, so that we can have a beautiful, beautiful, powerful, sovereign life experience. Okay, that is free to be in the nowosphere, free to live in the now in our full power and authority. Interdimensional, right? Interdimensional because, again, quantum timelines, whatever I think is my reality. Whatever I speak is creating the correct conditions for that reality, is saying, yes, more please, more poverty, more scarcity, or more financial abundance, more perfect health. Whatever it is, right? Wherever I place my focus. Now, these grid threads expend out from the feelings we have, as well as the words and the thoughts that we think and keep and share. Interdimensional, okay, generated rhythms of interdimensional systems. Systems are the quantum, are those parallel realities. So again, as we heal, as we learn to speak in new ways over our life, into our world, we enliven the atoms of this world. We give them the go-ahead to begin to create new realities for ourselves. We collapse timelines Perhaps we collapse timelines of being financially abundant every time we are saying like, man, nothing ever works out for me. I never get paid enough for my gigs. No one respects me in my field of work. I can't seem to earn more money. You know, whatever all those things are, well, boom, you're connecting with all the other minds and all the other people that have ever said that through all time and space, interdimensional systems, all time and space. All time and space. As long as we've created this word time and we think that there is time, right? Whether we think the universe is a billion, a trillion, a gazillion, however many years that we think about years is what is contained in this grid field, in this network of collective consciousness. Now, I show it here above head, but really it's everywhere. It's everywhere. The more that you meditate on this and that you open yourself up, if you're guided to seeing, the more that it comes through your third eye vision. You know, it's like Wi-Fi. Those threads are it's not just one simple line going from a tower to your cell phone. They're everywhere, going through everything, going through us. And it's the same way with the grids. Generated rhythms of interdimensional systems. Systems, right? Because each system contains a different set of timelines, a different set of realities. Now, here I am connecting here, right, with my thoughts, with my words. Here you are connecting with that greater strata of the grid with your thoughts, your words, your actions, and deeds. And remember before, we've talked about Pinocchio. So these are the strings. Our grids, our thoughts. There's individualized grids that are your personal grids that you speak over your life, that you think into your life, that you emote into your reality. And those personalized grid threads join with those collective grid threads of all time and space and all dimensions. And that's what strings us into certain realities. Pinocchio, what strings are you a puppet to? If you're going to be a puppet at all, are you puppeteering love and light and freedom and sovereignty, right? And being a joyful, you know, beautiful being on this earth? Or are you connecting into something else? Because what we connect to is going to fuel us, and we are going to be that puppet on those strings. Ultimately, perhaps being there are no strings on me, right? As we get 0 and 0 and 0 out, which we're going to get into. But equally, here's another person. Here's another person. Their thoughts, energy going up and out into the grid, connecting to me, connecting to each other, connecting to this greater strata. We share time and space. We share time and space, but within the continuum of time and space are quantum timelines, are parallel realities, are you believing in God and you believing in atheism, is you believing 12,000 people died at Auschwitz, is you believing 200,000 people died at Auschwitz, is, and I say this all, it's all in a bubble of light. You know that Kanye thing that happened recently where he spoke about, and again, I don't have it written down, so I'm not quoting specifically word for word, but this notion of, you know, I'm just paraphrasing here, like, you know, y'all can be slaves for 400 years or whatever it is, you know, and that you have a choice. And now this is, you know, a lot of different, it inflamed a lot of conversation, which I think is a good thing, right? For people to actually talk about this. This is expanding the awareness, but it's like that. I think on a higher level, is Kanye plugged in to a higher level, but he was saying it in a certain way that perhaps some people took offense to. But ultimately, is he saying, like, you have a choice. You can either be bound to the past of slavery, or you can erase all of those lines that had connected you in the past to the past and choose again. Choose new ways to think about you, to think about your culture, to think about your race. And what if, I think this is the very, very powerful thing, right? Whether we're talking about Kanye or any kind of an idea, what if a collective on this 3D really, truly, powerfully forgave, right? Honored it for what it is, that memory, and forgave and forgot. What if everyone who thought that they were a slave before and who held a deep resentment and a resistance and all the polarities and whatever, all those stratas of belief and all of those quantum parallel timelines and realities held, what if they stopped and they just saw themselves as sovereign, free of the past, and they did not connect with that memory, with those timelines of being enslaved, whether it's in the now or in the past? Whoa, talk about collapsing timelines. Talk about creating new realities for not only me, you, but for everyone, no matter what color, what race, what culture. All minds are joined. All of these grids are our collective thoughts, interdimensional systems. So when I think a good thought and I extend it out from myself, I am nourishing and fortifying all those grids that hold that space of love, that space of healing, that space of sovereignty, of being free, of being liberated, of experiencing joy and abundance in health and in abundance in light and love and all those good things. So when we do that and we fortify the grid, this collective network of consciousness, we are creating a tipping point as such. We are strengthening those grid threads that perhaps are, we can imagine that perhaps have been weakened, right? Say in that Kanye thing with slavery, perhaps there are some threads where there's weakened threads, but as those threads shift from each person of their consciousness and they begin to be reinstated in a new way and plugged into a new realm here through this grid form, it creates a strengthening of new realities, of new timelines, of parallel realities to exist in. Okay, so I pray and I affirm that you understand that. Now, point in creation. I'll just take a sip of water. So where do all these timelines come from, right? All these memories, all these experiences, well, they come from you, they come from me, and they're given to us from our families, from our societies, from our history books. And again, depending, for many, many years, I was a conspiracy theorist. I was always turning the page back, always like the government, blah, blah, blah. Now, I don't really, not that I don't care, I just don't have so much mind. I don't have so many grids connecting me to those polarized notions. Yet, I'm still aware that there's that grid, that exists, that those notions do exist, right? Of that there's like something underhanded in the government going on that's hidden and whatever. Why am I talking about this? Oh, point in creation. Okay, so there's an infinite amount of memories of information that is stored in that grid field, in that network of collective consciousness, and we choose what we're plugged into. But sometimes we don't choose. Sometimes life just happens to us, and that's what we're going to talk about, point in creation. So there's a timeline. Again, here you are, right? Little stick figure. This is your life. The beginning and the ending. This is where you're born. And let's say that each of these markers, I pray you can see this, each of these markers is like 10 years, right? Just say. Birth to death, just metaphorically. And each of these timelines in between, right? Because here in the 3D, we think about linear time. We think about a beginning and an ending, right? We're taught that there's a start and a finish, that we born and we die, and that it's 9 o'clock, and then it's 9 in the morning, and then it's 9 p.m. at night. But along this trajectory of your life, think about even if this last line isn't death, even if this is just today, and this is where we were born, think about all the experiences you have had that have marked your timeline of this life, right? What happened to you when you were 5? Oh, that weird thing happened? This is going to mark your timeline. What happened to you when you were 7? Oh, that weird thing happened? That's going to mark your timeline. What about when you were a teenager? And you started thinking about coming out, or you started thinking about doing things your own way, other than how your family, your friends wanted. What about when you were trying to get a job as you were older and then were defeated? And usually these things that what we're doing is we're talking about here things that have marked our timeline of life in a negative way, in a way that have marked us energetically, that have bound us, again, to certain grids and certain experiences, hooking us into that grid through our timeline of life. And what happens is as we learn to heal our lives, we learn to forgive, to forget, we learn to use this point in creation tool that we're going to get to here shortly. Oh, that's weird. Check that out. God has a new sound. It's the God phone. Hello? It's God. Hey, God, what's up? God says all is one and all is well in all of creation. I dig that. I'm so down with that. God says hi, everyone. Blessings. God says there's nothing to read here. Carry on. Carry on. Keep going. Okay, we're going to keep going. God just wanted to pop in and say hi. Well, thank you. Thank you. And what are you, God? Oh, the feeling, realization of oneness. God, you are saying that you are the feeling, realization of oneness. That's beautiful. I think ultimately that's where our talk is going, and what we're going to be demonstrating here is coming back to you, coming back home to that feeling, realization of oneness. So thank you for that. Nothing to read here today? Okay, well, that's different. Well, blessings. Okay, namaste. God's just like, carry on, carry on. Okay, so point of creation. So we have all these things that have marked us, that connect us to that greater strata of the grid that's either going to serve us in healing our path, or it's going to serve us in being bound to those patterns and to recreating those patterns in different ways through our life. So if you were traumatized sexually as a youth, and if that memory is not healed, what's going to happen? I'm assuming, I mean, and I'm no PhD, right? But I'm an LMNOP. No, beyond the alphabet. Okay. What I can speak of is from my own experience is childhood traumatic sexual experiences that happened to me. They kept coming into my life in all of my relationships and everything having to do with sex and my sexuality and how I related to men, how I related to women. You know, the projections I had, the filters I felt and saw through was all from this one thing that marked me as a child and connected me into all that collective consciousness. Well, that, excuse me, that memory stayed with me and filtered through my life the further I grew up until I began to learn how to heal. How to release, how to forgive, to forget, but also through this energy metaphysical tool is to release the memory, release those grids that had attached me energetically, metaphysically to that quantum timeline so that I can begin to experience a new timeline, a new version of myself that's really the old version of myself, that is really the ancient wise mystic that you are, that I am, that is the truth, that is always inside of us. Okay, so thinking about these things that we experience along our timeline, when we use point in creation as a tool for healing, as a metaphysical energy tool, what happens? Here you are, here's your timeline of your life. The way we use this tool is we simply say or think, I go to the point in creation of, and you fill in the blank, right? So if there's a thought that you keep having about a person, a place, a thing, the past, that you know is keeping you bound into that grid structure, into that network of things that are just keep binding you, like that Houdini jacket that just make you feel bound rather than liberated. I go to the point of creation of this thought. I go to the point of creation of thinking that I could ever be hurt. I go to the point of creation of my victim mentality. I go to the point of creation of feeling that I can't make money in the world. I go to the point of creation of hating my body. I go to the point of creation of feeling like I never have enough. I go to the point of creation of, you get the idea, right? What would you be guided to go to the point of creation of, whether it's specific to things that have marked you in your past or things that are relevant now, that are happening in your life? Well, what happens when you are guided to use this tool point in creation is you say or think, again, you say or think, I go to the point in creation of whatever it is, fill in the blank. The moment that you think that, the moment that you speak that, a line of light extends from you out through all of those grids that you have ever projected, you've ever believed, you've ever given power to, through all time and space and all dimensions, through that collective consciousness. A line of light washes from you and out through all of those threads, front, back, center, heart, feet, wherever they come from, your mind, that connect to that greater grid. And it goes to the point of their creation, where they began through time and space. And this includes all of your lives, if you believe in reincarnation. And it goes to the point of creation of that, and then whoo, and it comes back, and it really works like lightning speed. And what happens is that light, those lines of light, as they move through all of those grids that connect you to those people, those places, those things, and all those polarities and dual reality of those quantum timelines, those timelines get washed by that light. That light goes out through all of those points, through all of those grids, through all time and space, through all dimensions, washes them clean, washes those lines as they are connected to you, and to the degree that it serves your higher good, those lines are washed. And over time, those lines, as you use this tool over and over again, begin to dissolve. They begin to dissipate until they completely disappear. And all of those things that had at one time marked you are released. You move into a different timeline. You move into a different version of yourself. Again, really, the old version, the true version, the sovereign, the true you that you have always been, the master in you that is always residing, even when we feel like a victim and we feel like we're being kicked down by the world. So again, when we are guided to use point in creation as a metaphysical energy tool, you simply think or say, I go to the point in creation of this. And even if you don't fill in the blank with something specifically, the universe knows. The moment you have that feeling, the moment you have that thought, the moment you hear yourself saying something about lack consciousness in your world, lack, whether it's money or food or being taken care of or being seen or being, loved, whatever it is, the moment that you hear yourself think or speak or feel those things, I go to the point of creation of this. And instantly, light speed, baby, that stuff is cleared to the degree that it serves your highest good. That light is love, and it washes clean all of those grids. All of these things that we share is always for your highest good. There was never a force of will. We are never doing anything to manipulate others, right? It's always done for the highest good, for your highest good, for the highest good of all. So don't worry. There is no way that you are going to affect anything inappropriately. Now, the thing that I've learned, though, with point in creation is that it's a trip. It's a trip, because there are things in my life that, of course, I have felt traumatized by, right? You just read my book, The Reiki Apprentice. All of my links, by the way, are down below in the show more, or show me, show more, the description box down below. And you can check out my books. But, I don't feel I'm alone. I feel that we all have just numerous things that we've had experiences of in this world that can either keep us down and bound or liberate us as we use these things and we learn to alchemate them. But the thing about point in creation tool is we are invited to be a conscious co-creator of our life's experience, to shift from one quantum timeline to another. So where in your life are you ready to go to the point in creation? And this is a tool that you can use 20 million times a day, or if you do have 70,000 thoughts a day, perhaps 20,000 of them are used, working the point in creation tool, or perhaps once or twice. But ultimately, the more that you cultivate paying attention to where your mind goes, where your word goes, and you learn to realize what is really serving me, what is really true to me, what do I want to be true to me, you can use this tool to begin to collapse timelines, collapse and heal metaphysically those parts of you that are seeking healing. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't do your Reiki, that you don't do your yoga, that you don't meditate. This is one tool in our toolbox, right, that you can use as it resonates for you. And I will tell you that this rocks. I've used this for years and years and years. I've even have journals full of, I go to the point of creation and just fill in the blank and keep turning the pages and keep writing. The more that you realize how much stuff, how many grids you're connecting yourself to, and all of those light grids that are then enforcing and holding you in those patterns, the more you realize, like, I do not want to be this Pinocchio. I do not want to be bound and tied to these threads that are keeping me stuck in this paradigm of victim or this paradigm of lack, whatever it might be. So timelines become erased, leaving only what serves your higher good. It works through all time, space, and dimensions. Now remember, time is created through the words that you speak. How you speak over your life is going to determine how you experience, how you give rise to the atoms in this world, reflecting back to you a sense of space in your time, of time becoming longer, or of taking time away, of time getting shorter, so to speak. We're either saying and stating and affirming that nothing good ever happens to me, or it's probably going to take about 5 years before my book reaches the top 100, or just say, right? If I affirm that, then I'm creating that reality. If I say, man, anything, all things good can happen with my book, I just bless it, I let it go, I give it to love, that's a very different reality. I'm plugging into very different grids here. All time and space and dimensions. So time is the words that we speak. We are constantly creating the constructs of whether we are delaying and postponing good from coming into our lives, or creating a collapsing of time, taking time away, and creating the instances where the now moment can reside, and we can begin to experience more flow, more joy, more blessings in the now moment, right? And again, it always works for the highest good. Space. Time is the words, and space is the mind, is the thoughts that you keep about a certain thing, a certain experience. So the space that you hold in your mind is vitally important. The thoughts that you keep in your mind about the memories that you have. Whatever you think about, whether it's memories right now that you're creating about yesterday, things that you think about the future, the memories you have about the future, how about that, right? How are you creating those constructs to take away time or to add time, right? And in some instances, you might want to add time. In some instances, you might want to take time away. Ultimately, when the thoughts that we think and the words that we speak are in sync and reflect the same as one another, we come into the 0 point. We come into the now moment, which is a very different reality, a very different timeline than being stuck in the past. I go to the point in creation of lack consciousness. I go to the point in creation of feeling unworthy. I go to the point in creation of not loving myself. I go to the point in creation. So what we're doing is we're taking away, we're minusing those aspects that are not serving us, being joyful, being free, feeling sovereign, okay? So a little thing I wanted to draw for you next is this, to explain this idea even more. So here's the 0. This is the now moment. This is love at its ultimate expression of simply being pure consciousness, right? So we think about this, right? And I am, again, no mathematician unless Pythagoras or one of those cats wants to channel through, I welcome that for the highest good. But this came to me, this mandala, this idea, this mathematical idea came to me last night, and I love it. So the 0 point is in the center, right? Always in the center. And we have this, we think about math. I hated math as a kid. In Ireland, back when they used to still be able to, our math teacher used to swat the back of our hands with like a swat, with a, I don't even know what it was, but it hurt. I don't think they could do that these days. Anyway, needless to say, I really did not get math, did not understand it. Yet, this mandala with the 0, I do remember this grid though, of being 0 in the middle, +1, +2, +3, -1, -2, -3, right? And then above, +1, +2, +3, and below, -1, -2, -3. Well, it seems that the line that came when my guides gave me this mandala, is what I'm going to call it, the less you have to take away, the less you have to add. Speaking on life, speaking on energy, the less you have to take away, the less you have to add, is where we end up in the 0. So we think about that point in creation tool. And what we're doing with point in creation is we're taking away, we're minusing, right? Memories. We are minusing these memories that keep us bound to the past and out of the now moment. Equally so, when we use our prayer, when we use our healing modalities, when we affirm, when we trust, when we practice those things that put us in tune with love and light, we are adding love and light. So in a sense, remember the grid, I'm either using point in creation to delete, to dissolve, to release me from being connected to those grids collectively that are bound to negative or traumatic notions. And I'm going to allow then space for those grids to dissolve. And on top of that, I can use new affirmations. I can create new visualizations, prayers, meditations that will connect me, that will add more light, that will add more love into my realm. But again, ultimately, the thing with this design is that the less you have to take away, the less you have to add. Over time, I had a lot when I was using point in creation. Woo, like I said, I filled up journal upon journal upon journal of just going to the point in creation of all this stuff that society taught me, all the stuff that I thought about my body, the hate, the beliefs, the disrespect, the sexual stuff that happened as a kid, all that stuff. As I healed all that, I was taking away. And as I learned to do my Reiki, as I learned to create new affirmations of health, of sovereignty, of liberation, of choosing love, of being a clear channel for love and light, I was adding where I had taken away. And ultimately, what was happening is I was bringing myself into this greater space of 0. The less I had to take away, the less I had to add. And the more I could just simply be in this 0 point of being. When we create this tipping point, because think about it, where are you in your life? And you might be in a very good space in life, and I pray that you are. Yet perhaps there's an area, as you explore, if you are guided, as you are guided to explore the healing paths of your life, where are you in this area where there's things that are ready to be taken away? Where are you in this area that's keeping you grounded and bound to those memories, to the heaviness that keep you thinking that you are not pure, not one love, not connected to source energy? Here is where we're going to take away. And again, we're going to use alternate modalities to create the adding of those values and qualities that add to us those qualities of love, of light, of healing, of joy, of sovereignty. When we minus enough of this stuff, enough of the pain out of our lives, we naturally begin to move towards the 0 And as we add more love and light into our consciousness, we begin to move into this place of zero, where the tipping point, right? Where in life is your tipping point where it's more on the minus side than the plus side? And ultimately, we use all of our tools, whether it's point of creation or whatever it is, we use all of our tools. It's like that seesaw to come into that balance, into that 0 point. And when we reach that 0 point energy, the balance of zero, our Merkaba, our energy vehicle, naturally becomes activated. Now, there are meditations we can do, the 17th breath, visualization, all this stuff. And as promised, eventually I will get around to sharing on the Merkaba and getting deeper into it. But specifically, it is the energy vehicle that houses your aura. It houses all of your energy organs. And it is the chariot that you drive, that you either navigate consciously or unconsciously through the quantum timelines, through the parallel realities of your existence. And the way that you are operating in the minus or the plus field is going to determine your ability to navigate, to drive that Merkaba. And in fact, you relinquish the need to drive it at all the more that you come into this 0 point, because it does its own thing. You can take your hands off of the wheel. You no longer have to control it, and it will always lead you back to that intuition, into your intuition, where your truth is always knocking and guiding you and speaking to you through your higher self, through God, if that's what you believe, through nature, through other people, through songs on the radio, through movies, whatever, all the ways that the divine can speak through us and to us. The less you have to take away, the less you have to add. And this is where you end up in zero. When we're in zero, we create a vacuum. We create a vacuum through which all good comes to us. We no longer have to straddle back and forth as much, right? And good begins to come to us. Ideas, money, inspiration, perfect timing, the correct conditions for your higher good, flow, ease, joy, health, it all simply begins to come to you when you reside in this 0 point. And ultimately, right, this is a journey in life. Maybe there are some people you know who are just naturally in this 0 point always, right? And they're just always able to be in tune with that love and that light and be that and express that and extend that. Thinking about myself, I know for my journey, right, I've felt in tune with the 0, but I've also felt like I've had to go back and minus some stuff. And then I've got to add some stuff. Then I've got to add some more stuff. And then I've got to take away stuff. And then I've got to add stuff. And then I've got to take away and heal and heal and heal. And then I've got to add more and add more. And ultimately brings us back into the 0. That divine spiral of creation will always bring us back home, will always bring us back to ourselves. And that is what's so divinely perfect. And so quantum timelines, what timeline are you residing in? Whether it's about history, whether it's about when Nelson Mandela died, whether it's about you believe you're a slave or you're not, whether it's about, Carol Burnett being alive or not, whatever the instance is, specific to you and your reality, what timeline are you existing in? And I want you to take away this morning and to know that you have the power, you have the ability to choose consciously, to make conscious choices, again, to follow your intuition, to fine-tune your choice-making ability in honor of your intuition, in honor of your heart, to lead you back home, to the 0, to yourself, to the center of the spiral of you. If this resonates, I pray and I affirm that it does, that any little bit of this does resonate with you. Please use it. Ask me questions. My email is down below in the Show More box. If you have questions about this, or there's other things that you would like to hear us talk about here at 4D Trinity, write me an email. I'm so open. And sometimes you do, and I'm so very grateful. I'm so grateful for all of you for tuning in, for checking out these shows. I'm so very grateful, and I pray and I affirm that even if there's one little nugget here that resonates with you, that tickles you, that inspires you in one way or another in good on your journey of life, well then, Our job is done. And again, you know, it's so interesting. Last week, we did not do a meditation at the end of our 4D Trinity. And for many, many weeks, I think this is number 31 or so in our 4D Trinity. And for many weeks, for months, we've been doing a meditation at the end of our gathering. And last night and this morning, I was kind of dipping in and asking Source, asking Spirit, you know, are we going to do a meditation? Any ideas here? And it's no. And it's no. So for today, I bless you and I thank you and I encourage you to go and meditate anyway. Do your own meditation, that which serves you. I'm so very grateful for all of the subscribers, for everyone who joins, for all of your comments. I bless you. I bless you and I thank you. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you. If you are not subscribed at my actual website, go to tuesdaymaythomas.com. The link is down below. And you will receive my little mini book, The Higher Self Blueprint of Mastery. And you'll also receive my monthly newsletter, which I call a love letter. Do check your social and promos boxes because it might not go straight into your inbox. So join me. I'm so grateful for all of these conversations, for all of your comments. Thank you, Will, for being so on it today with looking up the ion and all that good stuff. I thank you and I bless you and namaste, everyone. Blessings, blessings, blessings.